We died in 2007.
You mean he's 10 years older than you?
Elizabeth, would you go punch him in the nose for me? Also, John Young, who's doing a lot of writing and doing some excellent work. He was a product of the Aquinas Academy. I think he was just after my time, or he might have been there when I was there. I can't remember now. He produced this book, The Scope of Philosophy. And he deals with, it's an excellent introduction, as it were. The trouble is, it's more descriptive. You see the way I plan things with diagrams and principles. Yes, he does that too. It's very good, but not quite. The woman who sent it to me, Mari Cassie, a lady I suppose to be close to 90 these days, I don't know, she and her husband are very active people. And Mari sent me this, and she said to me bluntly, it's not as good as your work, she says, but anyway, I haven't read the thing yet, I only arrived the other day. And but it's very good. John is hoping some of you might be interested in getting it. It's one of those things, be a very excellent thing to have in your small library. In the United States, there's D.Q. McInerney's writing some books too. He's with the Priestly Fraternity of St. Peter. But as one of my dear friends and colleagues, I won't tell him who it is, Dr. Bonnet, he says that it's essence and existence. He doesn't seem to prove anything. He's more descriptive than anything. John's a little bit like that, I think, but however, I haven't had time to look at it yet. Now, what I want to do tonight is we've just dealt with the first one of those articles. We'll come back to that next class. But a couple of things I just wanted to put into good perspective. St. Paul said in the letter to the Romans, he said, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, his eternal power also and divinity, so that they are inexcusable." He's reprimanding the Roman people. As Professor Powers pointed out just a while ago to me, you know, to understand the Bible, you really need philosophy. I found that in the, they had this, was it called Renew program years ago? I attended some of them, and they were awful. The blind leading the blind. But what I objected to was listening to people who didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Oh, by the way, are we on the air yet?
That deserves to be heard.
Yes, that deserves to be heard. It was an awful program. And I went along there, and there were times when I'd hear things and I'd say, oh my God, what are they talking about? So I'd have to sort of make distinctions, etc. It requires the philosophical mind to understand them, as Professor Powers said. It needs the philosophical mind to grasp it. He gave me an example of Christ on the seashore, and that you could interpret things. He was not a carpenter, he was a, what was it again it looked like?
Well, there are many references to Christ being involved with the Sea of Galilee and being a fisherman.
Yes.
And one could deduce from that he was a carpenter who specialized in boat repair.
Yeah, boat repair, yes.
That's the reason for his being there.
Yeah, well, you could, that's the thing. The mind has to be properly organized. Excuse me. Well, so much for that. Now, the philosopher seeks the reason contained in the statement by St. Paul to the Romans, bringing out all the intelligibility contained therein. Now, for instance, let's look at something. Where's my bracicle?
On the podium.
On a podium.
On top.
Oh, on top, that's right, thanks. So, let's just look at that statement. And we're going to relate it to metaphysics. God is the author, the cause of the mineral world. Now, minerals means not living. That's what mineral is. And the plant world. And the brute animal world. That's to say the non-rational animals and man. By the way, I've got notes written up on this. If you like, I'll send them to you, sort of a little review. Now, there are three things. I remember very well Charles Beaubien, when I was a student, that came to the library one day. Hello, Charles. Charles was perfectly bilingual, by the way, from an old family of the Beaubien in Montreal. And I said, what you doing? He says, I'm trying to put together three concepts. Causality, participation, and analogy. I'm trying to make sense out of it all. Here we have causality, God causing the whole mineral world, the whole world rather, of bodily things. Oh yes, he creates other things too. But these are the things we can have experience of. Being, he says, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. Well, the things that are made would count angels. And there are four groups that we know on this earth. Four species, to use the term, the term species in its proper meaning. Remember, the biologist and the philosopher use the terms in different ways. I can't help it if they're wrong. But the other things which we cannot experience, although some claim they have, of course, like Socrates. He had a being which spoke to him all the time. Didn't tell him what to say, but told him what not to say. When he was going wrong, it stopped him. The oracle he had there. But these, there could be, we could put all the angelic beings. We'd have to put them individually. Because remember, each one is a different species from the other. No two angels are alike. But there could be 1 billion of them. We don't know. I hope someday we might know. But that's causality. God caused them. Now, participation means you're sharing in some form there. So there is similitude. Similitude. There's a likeness. That's how we can deduce a lot of things about him. Every agent produces a like to self. Even the psychiatrist works on that. Excuse me. See what a fellow's doing. The behavior he produces tells you something about his nature. Or what's going on up here. Or what should be going on up there. So, do follows be is a way of putting it. Aristotle said, quales unus quisque est talis finis videtur ei. Of what sort someone is, such is the sort of thing that seems good to him. So the person, for instance, that's constantly making dirty jokes, you've got a pretty good idea what his mind's like. A person that has a love of watching pornography. I've been shocked lately at things that have been revealed and people have passed on to me, etc. Well, that kind of person, how far could you trust him with money? Don't, my friends. Don't trust anybody like that with money, ever. Don't enter into any kind of a contract with them. So, every agent produces a like to self. So there's a similitude of the effect with God. So when we prove his existence by going back the other way from things that these things, 5 weaknesses in them, we end up proving the existence of God. We can also deduce something of his nature. Because there's a certain similitude between the created and God. Now, analogy, that's different. For instance, we could say this. God is to his be as, say, a tree is to its be. But there's more unlikeness than likeness. Excuse me. Here, he's got a relationship of identity. He is his be. The tree has its be, its existence. We cannot use the word existence of God, of course, because the word exist comes from 2 Latin words, ex plus sistere, to stand, stand outside, its causes. Remember, it's being claimed that 80% of our language comes from Greek and Latin. More Greek today than as the centuries go on than Latin. But stands outside his causes. We can't say God stands out his causes. If he does, he's not God. So it's only an analogically like, that comparison. The best way that that's expressed, like I don't know how to do it on the computer. It's a sort of a crooked equals. I think there's a way you can do it. I'm not sure. But I searched. Pardon?
Go to tools.
Well, I went there. You mean where it's got symbols?
Yeah, symbols.
It's not, I haven't got it on my symbols. I looked through it. I haven't got it there. I thought it would be. I was hoping it would be. But analogically alike. There's a certain equivalence we understand from the difference between the tree and its bee. And it can non-be. Chop it down. Burn it. It non-bees. But there's a certain similarity in that God is and the tree is, but there's a greater unlikeness than likeness. That's what analogy means, greater unlikeness than likeness. So it should be clear that to study sacred theology requires formation in philosophy first. The church used to require, and I think it's being ignored, 3 years study in philosophy, and then 4 years study in sacred science, sacred theology. The Dominicans claim in Australia that they, so according to one of their professors who taught alongside of me in the Aquinas Academy, that they don't teach them philosophy now, they teach them theology and work the philosophy in. Well, it's almost as bad as the Jesuit system. 3 years of philosophy, 8 years to study something else, and then 4 years of theology. By the time they got into theology, they'd take on another profession in that 8 years, such as astronomy, carpentry, who knows, history. But the 3 years of philosophy, they'd forget it by the time they've got to their theology. Not a good system at all. So neglect of the above philosophical studies results in fideism, as I said. That's the reason some plunge into biblical studies. I was mentioned this earlier tonight. Now what I want to do is deal with a false system of metaphysics to show what it can do. A false system of metaphysics. Excuse me. A most important principle enunciated by Aristotle and again by St. Thomas is the following. A small error in principle leads to a great error in the conclusion. A small error in principle leads to a great error in the conclusion, my friends. In July 17th, 1918, a terrible night of murder took place. It was being celebrated, the memory of that, yesterday. The murder of the Romanov family. That is the Russian Tsar, his wife, the Tsarina, 4 daughters and 1 son, which I understand was a beautiful family. The word Tsar, by the way, can anybody tell me the origin of it? Caesar. Yeah. The same as Kaiser. Kaiser. It all came from the emperors of Rome were called Caesars. Thus, yesterday is the 90th anniversary of the cold-blooded murder of this fine, well-educated family, and it was replaced with another type of government. The rule of the Tsar was replaced with another set of rulers, the communists. Let us examine this new movement which imposed a false metaphysical system on the state. For a start, Descartes, in his arrogance, decided apparently that all the philosophers that went before him, they didn't know what they were doing. Descartes did. He enunciated a principle, sitting by the fireside, thinking about it, and says, what's the first thing I know? My idea. Now, if he'd known anything about the theory of knowledge, he'd know that it was completely false. Ideas are only there to represent things outside. That's what we have ideas for. So, others looked at this. The idea is what we know. And nearly all these modern philosophers coming after that all made the same silly assumption. So, here's Descartes. Do you know what a night cart is? In country places, in countries where they have to have outside toilets, a man had come around at night and would collect the bins out of the toilets, and it's called the night cart man. And it is often said Descartes had a brother named Night Cart. Descartes said we know the idea first, then we can know things. He put the cart before the horse. That's what he did. It does. It helps you remember. Yes. So that was his idea. One line of thinking went Hobbes, then Locke, the common sense philosopher is called, then Berkeley, Bishop Berkeley, and then David Hume. David Hume went into real skepticism. Religion, that's all around for the dogs or something like that. But they all assumed the idea is what we know. These three, Locke, Berkeley and Hume, are just as if it was one man living a long time. Look at it that way. Because each person developed the other. Locke was the common sense philosopher, just pure, just observation. Hume went into real absurdities. You remember when we talked about the 2 billiard balls. When you hit the cue, take the cue and hit one billiard ball, it hits another one, but we can have no knowledge of a necessary connection between one striking the other and the movement. Have no idea of it. What does he mean by an idea? None of them really do a critical analysis of that. So they all went into empiricism. All that we can know is sense, what we sense. Now another line, we're not going to worry too much about them. Auguste Comte, into positivism. But this line, which we'll call the idealist line, these fellows went on the impressions only, on the senses. This line went starting from the mind and went out. They followed, see, Descartes left himself wide open with all these errors. He's the father of the modern mess. I said that when I was travelling up in Canada with my brother. A foreign couple had a motel that we stayed at. Can't even remember the town now. Mackinac, up around there somewhere. And a woman said, "What do you do?" To my brother. "I'm an engineer." He says, "Then what do you do?" "I'm a teacher." "What do you teach?" "Philosophy." Oh, then she started to give me a lecture about philosophy. And said, "You seem to be influenced by the father of the modern mess." Modern mess? Descartes. Boy, did I hit a hornet's nest. Well, so Hegel says, let's say we could go to Kant. And Kant says, what we know is the idea, and he said, I suppose, or words like that the idea is a composite with what's out there, the tree, and my mind. How much comes from the tree? How much comes from my mind? Can't be sure. Kant says all we can know is the existence of those things. So Hegel came along and said, well, existence is another idea. So there's nothing out there. It's all in the mind. Fichte, Schelling, and Hegel, those three, known as the German triumvirate, those three all went into the mind. Schelling more in the will than the intellect. But they all said, we know what's in the mind. It can only presuppose if there's anything out there. But then they decided, Hegel went to the extreme and said there's nothing out there. It's all in the mind. Elizabeth is a product of my mind, just an idea in my mind. Or Elizabeth might say, I'm a product in her mind. Well, they arrive at this, there's a great mind thinking itself out, thinking about its ideas, this great spiritual mind. That's the reality. The masters and the slave, he called this. So they said that there has to be one common mind in which we're all ideas. And it's thinking itself out. Supposing I took a triangle, and the triangle could reflect, could think about itself. It would say, oh, I have 3 angles, they're equal to 2 right angles. Or half the base by the height will give me the area of the triangle, etc. Could think out all those things. Elizabeth, do you mind? I think I'll take 5 minutes to pick it up. So thank you. The triangle would be thinking itself out, all its repercussions, all its properties, all its nature. That's what this mind is doing, this great mind, thinking itself out. There's one of the ideas, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. All these things divorced from reality. And nearly every university in the world, up to about 1914, 18, to that era, was teaching this Hegelianism, except possibly only just some of the Catholic universities were not. So, and what stopped them? Well, there were 3 things stopped them. In the First World War, there were 4 million men died in the trenches alone. And you remember, it was operated according to French theory in the First World War. Namely, 2 straight lines, and you fight each other till the one that's got the most left wins. Just, that was the current French theory about warfare. And 4 million men died just in the trenches. An uncle of mine, for instance, got a sabre slash across the face, an arm blown off, and he's lying in a trench, and the officer jumps in the trench and lands right on his face. He survived for many, many, many years. But the things that go on there. Now, it's pretty hard to come back and hear people talking about Hegel and Hegelian philosophy. Oh, it's all a matter of the mind. What's going on is just in our minds, and then we're all parts of the minds of a great spirit. The second thing that stopped them was the depression after the First World War. Have a hungry belly and try and say it's just something in the mind. The third thing became the popularization of Freud. Freud the fraud. What was it? The fraud. Freud the fraud. Nowhere in the world, according to Boris Sokolov in his book, The Permissive Society, nowhere in the world did Freud catch on except North America, the United States. It was the only place that really officially caught on. Oh, there are Freudians in Australia too, but this is the place, and it came about from what he calls the pseudo-intellectuals, not the real intellectuals. Namely, radio announcers, newspaper editors and reporters, just like we've got, I nearly said shit stirrers, but I won't say it. Just like we've got today, the mud stirrers. You've got the newspaper reporters stirring up mud everywhere. And they caused this to become popular. So people would say, oh, I've been speaking to my psychoanalyst and he's told me this, and et cetera, et cetera. And of course, no 2 of them agree alike. And Dr. Nigro, a man who deals with sex, family, relationships, and everything all the time, said, they're a bunch of bloody nuts anyway. Sam, I didn't mean that. He didn't, not quite, he'll be hearing this, not quite that you said in the discharge, please erase that part. Dr. Nigro is a wonderful psychiatrist, a good friend of mine. He's in Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, thank you. And he's, he writes, he's a prolific writer. He wrote a lovely work on homosexuality. It's the different things that he's written, different works. Anyway, yes, I've heard this in so many places that so many psychiatrists, psychoanalysts. One man said in Australia, a good friend of mine, he's a psychiatrist, And he said, we won't need patients to come into the hospital shortly. All we do is put all the psychiatrists that are working in there and the nurses, etc., and keep them as inmates in the psychiatric institute. So Hegel exaggerated the activity of the human intellect, ignored the activity of the known. The knower is active. My first exam with Father Regis, he said, what is epistemology? So this is his first question to me. I said, to determine the relationship between the activity of the known and the activity of the knower. He was taken aback. How can the known be active? He said that to me, because he always taught the passivity of the known. I said, by determining the form. The very offers the form. I said, that's what we mean, where I come from. Oh, it was almost as if he's written a big book on epistemology, a beautiful work, but it was almost as if he'd never heard that put that way before. The activity of the knower and the activity of the known. In one respect, in the attitude of specification, the order of specification, the known is active. In the order of operation or execution, the knower is active. So this was ignored by all these philosophers. The idea is what we know from Descartes. Hegel took that. So what is that? What is our knowledge then? It's a struggle of ideas. So this is what Hegelian did, and you're going to see what's coming out of this in a minute. Or not only were these men idealists, but the men like Spinoza, Baruch Spinoza, a Jewish Spanish Jew who fled to Holland. And Baruch Spinoza's ethics is like reading a geometry book. It's not based upon human nature adequately understood, but based upon working out of his mind. They're called essentialists, those people. And the existentialists are the people who reacted to them. Then Malebranche, as somebody said, the bad branch of the family, because Malebranche is the word's made in French. But he's sort of, these men are sort of essentialists. They don't base upon reality, but they base it upon their minds more than anything. I remember Woodbury commenting on certain kinds of philosophers saying about animals, different things about animals. They've never been out on a farm. They've never gone through the bush. We went camping with my folks, places where they sort of on headlands and things where they had camping grounds and very few cottages you could rent. And I can remember me getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They'd wander out with two things: the rifle, a box of bullets in my pocket, of course, and a bird book. And I spent time looking at the birds and not firing a shot, but enjoying every bit of it and keeping one eye open for deadly snakes. But this is what Hegel did. I think I'm going to need all this board, so I better get this nice and clean. He taught a doctrine of dialectic. Dialectic. Dialectic, like we have the word intellect. Dia in Greek means through. Lect means picking through. The intellect picks out the nature of a thing, picks out the essence of it. Intus means within. Lect, intellect, means picking within the thing to get the essence of it. This is a lovely little girl, Elizabeth, but my intellect picks out this. She's human. She belongs to the species of man. That's what the intellect does. So the dialectic. First, there is the thesis. Then there's an antithesis. And this is good in logic, antithesis. Out of the two of them would come the synthesis. Whoops. The mind would often, and you'd have discussion. You think this, I think that. And between us, we'll arrive at the truth. That very much infects our minds today, very much. Or a group meeting. Out of the group must come truth. Oh yes, let's get together and have a discussion. Taking formal classes. Oh no, that's out of date. That's old-fashioned. Just have group discussion. Now the truth is sure to come out in that. So there it is. Now, here's the application of it. Being, conflict with non-being, and now the two of them is become. There's an application of it. You know, this is good logically, yes. Thesis and antithesis, that's true. But you've got to be very careful. It requires more than that to get the truth out of a discussion. But that's its basic, that's called the dialectic. So the being is conflict with non-being, and out of that conflict is become. In other words, development, change. Now there was a young Hegelian, a group of them. Feuerbach. What's his name? What Dickens his name again? Engels, that's right. Couldn't think of it a second. And Marx. These were following the disciples of Hegel, being taught by them at the University of Bonn. I stood outside the University of Bonn on one occasion, looked there, and I thought, boy, I'd love to be back in those days just to see how these fellows, how they talked, etc. It's all along a main road, this University of Bonn, very nice buildings, but nothing spectacular. So these young Hegelians were listening to this stuff, which all came from Hegel rather. So it's really what knowledge is a struggle of ideas. Now this young Karl Marx, he said, you can see all of this, how they're talking about this is the great spirit thinking of itself out, how these are all ideas in the mind. But Marx followed all this and liked it. But he said, Hegel's on his head, I'm going to put him on his feet. But what is commonly said is Marx put himself on his head but didn't realise it. He said it's not spirit and ideas, it's matter that's thinking itself out. So he called it dialectical materialism. Dialectical materialism. And this is matter thinking itself, or matter developing itself. Matter now for Marx became active, and it's struggling with its opposites. So I've tried to apply Marxism, but my kettle won't obey. It won't come to its own perfection automatically. I have to turn the gas on, turn the heat on. It won't boil itself, it won't come to its perfection, much as I've begged it to. But dialectical materialism means that matter is evolving. Now, evolve means to roll out of something. If he'd known anything about potency and act, he could see that it would not come out from matter, because the matter itself, because by matter he just meant bodies. Didn't mean matter to that which receives form. And this matter is unfolding itself. And he saw it in history. He knew about 100 years of history only. By the way, I was in the British Museum where he worked every day. See, in the British Museum, you go there, there's sort of little circle of these seats on tiers, and you go to the desk, there's a sort of a horseshoe or round, I've forgotten now, thing there where you hand in a request for a book. For instance, I requested Bagné's commentary on the Summa, and they brought it up to me. It hadn't been published for a long time. Then I remembered, and they brought it up all tied together with string. And my classmate, Father Robles in, I forgot the Spanish town, Dominican father, he was reproducing it. I've never got a copy of that. I wish I had. The commentary of Bagné's is very good. Woodbury used Cajetan and said it was the best. My other friend, Father Batten, the Dominican father, used Bagné's and said he liked Bagné's. Anyway, so this is what he saw, he thought in history. You'd have to bear with my spelling here. I can never remember the proper spelling of bourgeois. Bourgeois, I don't know, it's like that.
That's right.
We're going.
Bourgeoisie.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Then there's the proletariat. Now the proletariat were those who are dispossessed of property. They were the people who had no property. And there's a struggle of opposites. This is the high point. So it all became political. Even Hegel, even Kant, it all become political in the end and say what society is. And the bourgeoisie would struggle with the proletariat and produce the dictatorship of the proletariat. The proletariat, the dictatorship of the proletariat. That was the first stage. Then out of that would come the Soviet society. Now, as Frank Sheed said to us,
Yeah, question. Soviet, that's a Russian term now. Marx wasn't reasoning or propounding. Marx didn't speak Russian, did he?
oh, I don't know. He had German as his language.
Yeah. So, no, Soviet, that's a Russian word.
Yeah, but this is how it was interpreted.
Oh,
It was after
all right,
that, yes.
interpreted, okay.
Now,
Oh, yeah.
the dictatorship of the proletariat was to take place, was Frank Sheed said to us, and I'm talking about, I think, the 1950s. No one that ever formed a dictatorship gives it up. And they did it. The masters were ruthless dictators in Moscow, and they were an elite, more elite than any other country, as you know. But the Soviet society was to be one which had no owners. Everybody was, what was it? Man is by nature a worker. He just loves to be free and doing his work. He'd never been to Niagara campus. Our students thought that college was a 4-year loaf made out of dad's dough. So the dictatorship of the proletariat was a sort of a first phase where they got control. Then they formed the Soviet society. Nobody owning, all little units working independently. Excuse me.
Classless society also.
All classless society, yes. But it was worse than any class society. Excuse me. So, I should have got you to stir this coffee with your finger, Elizabeth. I like mine nice and sweet. So, the dictatorship of the proletariat. So there's what a false metaphysical system. Just like Freud. Freud took a metaphysical system and forced it on reality. Marx took a metaphysical system and forced it on reality. They were grossly ignorant men. I have a book produced by the Australian Communist Party, and Dr. Jerzy Wojciechowski in Ottawa thought it was splendid. He said, I've got to get a copy of that. But I don't know where you get it. I bought mine from the Communist Party long ago. The dialectical materialism according to Marx, Engel, Lenin, Plekhanov, and I've forgotten who the fifth one is now, 5 writers. And it's systematized as much as it can be. But to read about, out of matter comes everything. Listen to this great statement. Our minds can know what matter is, therefore the mind itself must be matter. Now the others said exactly the opposite in ancient Greece and right through the medieval world. Our minds know what bodies are, therefore it's not a body itself. And Anaxagoras said that about 25 centuries ago. Since the mind knows all bodily things, therefore it's not a body itself. It's a beautiful proof, but it had to be unfolded by first Aristotle, then other men, and the crowning glory to my mind is in Woodbury's work, beautifully brought out, strictly reduced to scientific argumentation. So look at the mess that's been forced on the contemporary world for a false metaphysics. And I think I see Marxism being implied in many things I see it here today. So he only knew about 100 years of history, and he thought he saw all this taking place. There'd be no owners in the Soviet society. It's a classless society. How little he understood human nature. There's Dr. Pius, who was a philosopher, a wonderful medical diagnostician, head of the most modern hospital in the Southern Hemisphere in these days, he was. And first-class economist. And Dr. Pius was pointing out how man takes the least resistance wherever he can. Here you've got a vacant allotment on a street corner. There might be a bus stop there and you live down here. What do? The first thing you know is there's a pathway is worn across that grass plot or bush plot. No matter how thickly bush it might have there, somebody will walk through it, gradually a pathway will be established. Take a shortcut. So causality is pushed aside by the Marxists. In the books on Marxism, the books written by good philosophers, one under the direction of Bishop Fulton Sheen, for instance, they say they deny the principle of causality. These things automatically take place. Yet they deny that by having a communist party to force it to take place. Beautiful contradiction implied in it. But they don't see that. And the Communist Party didn't want to give up anyway. But my information about the Communist Party in Australia is they spent their evenings drinking and discussing what they're going to do to different ones when they got into power. They're ruthless. Just like certain people are in the world today. There's something very evil in men who go bad. Corruption of the best is the worst. Never forget that. It's amazing to see. It's amazing to see the Ryans and the O'Tooles and the McCabe's who are in the Irish names in the Communist Party. The Australian police went straight into Mark's house in Sydney and just raided everything. Oh, some people were shocked, exceeding their authority. Their attitude was, go to hell. We know what these people are doing and we're going to stop them. The Communist Party in Australia, which was tied to, there were 6 different, shall we call them, divisions in the Communist Party in the world, 6 different movements. And the Australian one was tied to Peking, China. And they emptied out all these documents, seized a lot, the security services. I wasn't going to tell you, but I think I will. I received a request on one occasion. There was a movement in Australia which just called the movement, was keeping an eye on the Communist Party. My friends were all in it, and excused me from not being in it because I was studying philosophy and running a pharmacy and also the director of a big youth organisation, 400 people in it. We were trying to keep the youth away from the Communist Party in Australia. And there was a time when all the unions were under the direction of the communists. And I got a request on a certain man. Where did he stand? No, what could I say about him? What could I supply? This information, because this man was known to hobnob with a certain communist. The man they asked me about was my own father-in-law. He didn't want my wife to come from Australia to live here. You think you're going to save the world, don't you? You know, silly suggestions like that. No, I don't say that, but I'll do my bit. Then I can face my maker and say, at least I tried. And they can't accuse me of doing it for money. They can't accuse me for doing it for anything except this, for you people and for the good of this country. And that beautiful statement, I've seen 2 of them lately on the computer, where men said that others stood back in the past and let the Nazis come forward and take control. And the same's happening now with the Muslims.
Oh, no.
Oh, there are good ones and there are bad ones, they say. Well, it's the bad ones that everybody's letting get away with things. So we've got the tools. Aristotle rejected this classless society, by the way, 23 centuries ago. Plato put the idea forward of a community of wives. And Aristotle showed where nobody owns something, everybody neglects it. Where nobody takes hold. Then he said, also, on the other hand, you can have too much unity in a state. You want unity, but you can have too much. So that's against socialism. Beautiful way to put it. So men have commented on the idea of the dictatorship of the proletariat. Namely that the dictators, the workers, would never give up. They didn't. But they weren't the workers, of course. In Australia, we had Sidney Wright, Professor of Pharmacy. he came after my time. I'm sure the professor I studied under, Fittimore, would have nothing to do with him. But Fittimore had died. Sidney Wright took over the pharmacy faculty, as it became. My day was a department in the Faculty of Medicine. And he was indoctrinating people in the Communist Party, about the Communist Party. I was supplying in my pharmacy a number of hospitals. And one of the nurses, there were some lovely nurses there we got pally with. They'd come in and see us, and one used to talk to me about a few little problems she had. And one day she revealed something, that the Catholic doctor of Marrickville started just over the road from my pharmacy, was asking her and others to join the Australian Communist Party. Dr. Quinn, I said, the Catholic doctor of our area? So I spoke to one of the priests. We had a pastor and 4 curates in that parish. It's a big parish, Passionist Fathers, big monastery there. He said, glad you told me. He said, you've only confirmed what we already knew. We didn't know he was indoctrinating people, though, or trying to get them to join the party. He said, don't mention it to the pastor. He'll have a heart attack. He won't believe it. This well-known Catholic doctor, the woman said, isn't he a lovely Catholic man? Yeah. The woman said that to me. And he was deceiving the parish priest, the pastor, into thinking, well, he was a good, loyal son of the church, you might say. Deception is the ultimate weapon they always use, the deception of the Communist Party. I've learned too much. I knew Les Roy, the man that my father-in-law was hobnobbing with. Or we're over time. But let me just tell you one final point. The day of our wedding, he was asked to toast the bride and groom. Now, Les knew me, Les Roy. I didn't have much to do with him, but he knew me. And he said some beautiful things about my wife, Elaine. And he said, the groom, I don't know much about him. My friends and I, our mouths dropped open. Father Woodbury was asked to toast the parents of the groom, my parents. They must be good people, he said, to produce such a good son, etc. Sorry, I shouldn't say it like that, but that's the tone. He was saying, as St. Thomas says, by their effects you shall know them. And he argued from that what I was, that was his indirect way of saying, I'm countering what this bloody communist said. I spoke to him later. I said, you know, he's a communist. He said, I thought so. But that was his way of countering. I shouldn't have said that. But anyway, there it is. So, my friends, you see what it can do? Oh, I got some more stuff there, but I might mention that next week. But Marxism is still infecting our society much more than we realise. So be on guard, my friends. Father Gruner in Canada says communism's not dead. It's not dead. He's one of the few, if not the only one, that's saying that. He's right. It's not dead. It's infected our whole climate, etc., etc. Thank you.
It's not called Marxism.
But
It's just not called Marxism.
no, that's true. Yeah, that says it nicely.
I'm anxious to see